In 2022, we opened up in Canada, and that was very intentional because being one sector is fantastic, but it's really hard to weather the storm when that sector slows down or is faced with political issues. That's what impacts us the most. This country is just in this inertia of indecision. We've lost the ability to go, it's okay to take a risk. If it doesn't work, let's fail fast and we go again. And I think that bit is where we're all so worried that we don't want to do it. But what does that equal, Paul? An economy that's stagnant?
Some of the most successful businesses in the world have been people I'll learn as I go along and I'll make some mistakes as I go along, but I'll learn and I will get better and stronger. In some cases, they completely revolutionise entire industry. They don't go with a preconceived idea about what is the way to do things.
In the SME space, you've got to remain agile. I don't want to be left behind by being the organisation that's still doing the very analogue things. You want to be at the forefront because that's the way you attract talent in.
Today I was joined by Victoria Head of Arcus. They are a specialist healthcare consultancy that are really interesting because they've got a clinical team who advise around stakeholder management engagement as well as a proper capital delivery project and project management team. Victoria is an amazing character, speaks with such clarity about what she's doing. She's progressed until the point that she actually leads the business. Proponent of just doing a good job, engaging with people and bringing everybody on the journey. You'll love this chat with Victoria. Well, welcome to the next episode of Growing Consultancies. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Victoria Head of Arcus. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Paul. It's great to be here.
We obviously go back quite some time. I was saying to one of your colleagues who I probably spoke to you the first time actually as a potential candidate years ago.
Indeed.
So I watched your journey and I'm delighted to have you on, and we're obviously taking advantage of you being here in Leeds for UK Reef. So yeah, I'm really pleased that you're here.
I'm really pleased here, and also really pleased that we've kind of maintained that connection after all those years. Actually, it's been really great.
I think the industry's surprisingly small, isn't it? And I think my whole ethos in life is don't always try and be a human first, try and be decent to people, and I think that counts. And likewise, I've always enjoyed our conversations over the years. So you should never. Life's too short to kind of burning your bridges or anything like that. You should always just be a decent human. I think if more people were decent humans in life, then we'd have a lot less stress.
A different place now, I think. Yeah, agreed.
Well, in fact, I think probably actually a lot of people are decent humans. I think social media tries to encourage us to all not want to be with each other.
No, true. I think you've got something in that. Yeah.
This is very bizarre. This is not even what the podcast is about. But anyway, we'll get back to the podcast. So. Can you give us an overview of the business, headcount, turnover, kind of core sectors?
Yep, great. So Arcus, the healthcare infrastructure specialist, we're about 86 people as we sit here today, 13.5 million turnover. It's been going since 2017, so we're 9 years old now, 10 years. Next year's marked a bit of a milestone that I'm thinking about quite a lot.
Yeah.
It started very much coming out of... there was a founding group of directors that had been working in a number of organisations, and they learnt a lot and thought there's some great stuff in working in larger organisations, but there's also some stuff that doesn't quite work, and they wanted to do something different. Okay. Arcus was born, and then 9 years later, as I say, we are covering the whole spectrum of healthcare infrastructure. So there's quite a clinical bit of Arcus where we have doctors and nurses that are working out based on, for example, all the new housing developments, new towns that are going up. What's the demographic need for health in that area? That then translates into us understanding what healthcare infrastructures need. How does the built environment need to respond in terms of your GPs, your health centres, your hospitals? And then we have architects, technical professional people then translating some of that into, as I say, managing design processes, project managers, and then a real operational side of the business where they're then commissioning those hospitals and health centres and community facilities to get them ready for for first patients. So there's probably a bit of a dichotomy in Arcus in that it's very infrastructure focused, but with a real clinical bias because we are a niche, we are one sector, we're specialists.
Yeah, I would go as far as say you're probably very unique. Probably there's a number of larger multidisciplinary consultancies who maybe have all of that in one, but for an SME, that's quite unusual, isn't it? To have the range of skills, disciplines that you've got, and obviously that very much a focus within healthcare.
Yeah, agreed. And the bit of feedback we get from our clients the most is that So you could be working with the project management team, and they're NEC project managers, they're managing the build, etc., the design team. But then they'll have a problem that comes up, and there'll be someone, maybe a very clinical problem, very operational, and there's somebody then that they can have a discussion with. And that's where it's worked, and I think that's where it's still standing after 9 years, really.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it? You know, because you've got the what would have the equivalent, what would be the stakeholders and who understand the, you know, how to run a hospital and, you know, the challenges and the issues that come along.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And there's many of them in healthcare, which we all know, we all understand. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of what I presume you get engaged with the client from a very early stage, and sometimes that'll be around, I assume, kind of estate planning. Sometimes that'll be around capital projects. I mean, I imagine you intersect with them from a lot of different angles, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. So there's a very strategic bit very early on when there's just an idea. How can we solve this problem? Or maybe there's a new policy agenda.
Right.
So very much in that strategic advisory space where we're then, right, okay, what are we trying to solve? How do we do that? What's all of the data and telling us that needs to be solved? Then how do we then put a case for change that is economically viable, that we've got a solution in terms of the built environment to deliver this? And then that, as I say, then you kind of hand that off to then the program and project management team. We've got a business case team that are writing the business case to make sure Treasury can approve it and it's delivering value for money, because this is generally public purse. So there's a big part of what we do in having to justify that this is the right thing for all of us that are taxpayers in this country. The same though when we're working in Canada, where it's federally funded, we need to demonstrate that that's right and proper. Yeah.
So that's a good segue. So location-wise, where is the business?
Yep. So we have grown. So Bristol is its head office. That's where it was born out of. We've got offices in London, Birmingham and Leeds. And then in 2022, we opened up in Canada.
Amazing.
And that was very intentional because being one sector is fantastic, but it's really hard to weather the storm when that sector slows down or is faced with generally political issues. That's what impacts us the most. So we wanted to go to a new territory, and it was a new territory that looks to the UK in terms of its healthcare model, but has absolutely fantastic sight of its pipeline. So they're really open about the level of projects that are coming down the line, quite different to the UK. So given the level of investment, it felt like a very natural step. So about 2021, quite a lot of investigating work. We went over there, just, a bit of market scanning, who's over there, who would our competitors be, and then a little bit of who could do this for us, who could be an Arcus person from afar. And we did find that person, a great lady called Christine Chadwick, and she now looks after that. But then we did send over one of our founding directors, Stan, who was running the London office. He went over there for a year because even with MS Teams that we're so used to now, there is a big body of water in between us, and you want to try and carry the values and the culture and set it up in a way that you can, it's not just an add-on, it is a true global business. So that was kind of a bit of investment, actually. Let's send that director out there, let's help Christine, and then let's make sure that there's that synergy back to where it all began.
And I find a lot of businesses that do expand internationally, that do it well, exactly do that, because of course there may be some individual cultural differences in two countries, but the kind of core of your business, the way your culture is, needs to be translated. So absolutely, it's worth that investment, I would argue.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And it allowed us to set it up for success. So it's been there 3 years now. It's put down really good foundations. We're in Toronto, and now, given the blooming size of Canada, it's really different to the way we operate. But we're trying to then emulate the regional model we have in the UK, but on a much larger scale over in Canada. So we've got kind of sub-offices opportunities in 3 of the 5 territories out there. And the plan would be, and the aspiration actually, not the plan, the aspiration, that it can be as big or if not bigger than the UK.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Good.
That's the hope.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. Just going back to your point about the pipeline is easy to see over there. Is that because it's not? Because obviously the issue in the UK is very much a lot of big things in the UK, whether it be healthcare, defence, anything. It's all at the mercy of the political football.
Yeah.
That if one new party, one new administration comes in, they tear up the last one and it goes around. So is it slightly different in Canada in that regard? Is it more of a centralised? Somebody centralised is looking after healthcare
So they have kind of development bodies within each jurisdiction that are then responsible for infrastructure. So, for example, Infrastructure Ontario. Yeah. And so their mandate, whilst there is that umbilical cord to the colour of the political party, it is there to deliver what's within its kind of remit, within its guardrails. So it's tried to put some separation. There's probably something to be learnt there.
100%.
Yeah. But with that, as I say, then they're really open. We've got 4 billion, we've got 15 billion of investment. That's great for the market then to be able to see it, to plan for it, and that helped us inform us to go. Let's go there. Let's give it a try.
And you're absolutely right. There's something to learn in the UK market because it's not just healthcare, but anything that's big capital projects. When you're talking about billions of pounds worth of investment, the problem in the UK often is that the government will decide to do this and then expect the supply chain, the contractors primarily, I guess, to respond quickly and be able to suddenly deploy thousands of people on the site on £1 billion scheme. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way. You got to. We need advance notice so we know what we're doing. Agreed.
And actually only yesterday I was on a panel at Reef around exactly that. And NISTA have now published a pipeline. That's really helped. There's a 10-year strategy within healthcare. There's the 10-year infrastructure strategy. The discussion yesterday was 10 years isn't long enough. It's 20 years. You've got to recognise we've taken the step. We've got one. So that should
take the win.
Yeah, exactly. I think now from that discussion yesterday, the consensus was there's the strategy. Does there now need to be an industry response as to the how? Because I think government might feel like they've done that bit. And then the fragmented nature of our industry is such that, well, quite a lot of people are up for it, but it's quite siloed or, as I say, fragmented. Yeah. So is there then some sort of collective industry response that says, here are some options as to how that pipeline could be delivered? Yeah, private finance coming in, many factors to it. But I found that an interesting discussion yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the reality is not just healthcare, but a number of sectors. Sometimes the solution might not be just, bid to one contractor to deliver it because some of these are just too big of schemes. Yeah. And there needs to be more of a collaboration between the contractors, between maybe the consultancies, so that it gets delivered for the public good.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that alliance in and maybe where you start to change some of those rules of engagement. I'm not sure we've fully tested whether we're getting what we wanted from how we thought an alliance would work. But it's certainly something that is talked very commonly about within health and social infrastructure as it could be the way that this industry starts to get the buy-in and starts to change. Healthcare's got a terrible reputation in construction. There are, unfortunately, there's not many successes. And that means that we're not sexy enough to the industry if there are other sectors. So there's a role for us to make it more accessible. Let's be more equitable. Let's show them that we want this to be successful for the public sector, but also for our contracting organisations. That needs quite a mature approach and quite a commercial approach, which I think public sector struggle with sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a big issue for a long time in healthcare, and obviously now with the new hospital programme, the reality is, and you're probably one of the few examples, Victoria, who've led and delivered a big capital scheme in the healthcare space. And obviously we had a period where there just wasn't anything built for a long time.
No, agreed.
So logically some of those skills are going to diminish. And that's then replicated across other sectors like nuclear, which we've got a big issue with now building. And unless we have that continued pipeline and the supply chain is constantly engaged, kept busy, maintains teams, then we're gonna have that constant ebb and flow.
Agreed. And I also think there's something with we are quick to keep revolutionising. There's a new thing, there's something else. And I think we kind of dismiss the evolution of something. And given the skills shortage across many sectors, I'd say some of the kind of the early careers people that are maybe starting to show a bit of an interest in our industry, they want to see that this isn't set in stone for 50 years. They can see the industry hasn't moved in many years. We need to now show that it can evolve. Look at the pace of the way AI is changing, just the way technology is. We need to show that we keep doing that as well. And I think we've got a role to play in going, a very personal opinion of mine at the moment is this country is just in this inertia of indecision. We've lost the ability to go, it's okay to take a risk. And then if it doesn't work, let's fail fast and we go again. And I think that bit is where we're all so worried that we don't want to do it. But what does that equal, Paul? An economy that's stagnant, not attracting good people into the industry. And also, as somebody not too old but semi-old at the moment, I don't want to be stuck in that where it's just you just accept it. You want to put some challenge into it as well.
Yeah, and just encourage people to want to be involved, come up with new ideas, and have an open forum.
Agreed.
So let's talk about you. How did you get into the industry in the first place?
Oh, it's quite convoluted. So
you know what? Sorry to cut across for a second. What amazes me is a lot of these stories are quite convoluted. You'd be amazed. I assume that most people ended up in any area within construction probably had some kind of family connection, but often I've found some really fascinating conversation with this question.
Yeah. So I didn't have any kind of connection per se.
Yeah.
My dad was an engineer, but it wasn't something that I was conscious of in that, I'm quite interested in that. So I went to uni, did my degree in sociology and social policy. There's your first hint, nothing connected.
Okay.
I then graduated. I joined the Marks & Spencer's graduate training scheme and loved it. Marks & Spencer's are fantastic.
I was very good at that time, maybe still is, but I'm sure it's very good at that.
Really good, and a fantastic firm to work for.
Yeah.
And part of it was a rotation where you did retail, so you're in the store, you're managing, and in the food hall, in the underwear department, all of that. Then you go into head office and you understand about product development, etc. And then they had a team at the time in development.
Right.
And it was then I went out to, I think it was Kingston. Yes, I went out and I was like, I really like this.
Right.
Looking at land, looking at opportunity. Where's the high street? What's this? What's the demand? Why do we need this store?
Right, okay.
So that was I found something. I need to scratch that now. Like what, what do I need to do? I was still living at home in Essex at the time.
Right.
Then I relocated to Bristol and I thought, I'm going to go for a job. So I didn't have a job to go to. I was relocating for a then boyfriend.
Right.
I want to go for a job that has some sort of connection to estates. And I got a job within an NHS trust in the estates department.
Right, okay.
And at that time I thought, right, let's take myself back to school. That was really conscious for two reasons. Well, first of all, my degree won't cut it in this industry. A female trying to get into this. So I went back and I did my master's in construction and project management at Reading.
Right.
And thoroughly enjoyed it. And that is, the rest is history, and just loved it from there on.
Brilliant. So what was your first job within construction or construction consultancy?
So it was a community hospital out in South Bristol. It's now quite a lot of NHS trusts will tell you this. It's in the most deprived ward in the UK, so it's pretty rough. It was there was many social issues that you're trying to solve. Very kind of poorly people that had life expectancy that was less than the average, or that
Okay.
So you're learning all of this as a young new PM. And my boss at the time, great lady that I've kind of developed with, etc. She pretty much kind of allowed me to, or pushed me in the deep end, and didn't actively say it, but part of it was, you'll bob up. And I love that, and I recognise that in myself now. I quite like probably being pushed in the deep end and finding my way to get up. And I thoroughly enjoyed that project, and gosh, did I learn a lot. And it was a really good, successful project, and got it open and open on time, under budget, etc. And it was then that I'd found something that I loved. The construction industry, I also love the marriage of something that I'm very proud of, that you feel like you're giving back to the community. And that might play to my undergraduate career in sociology. So there's somehow I've managed to make a connection, but it wasn't intentional. I've kind of done it by accident or by by accident.
But we all have these kind of sliding door moments, don't we, sometimes, where, you know, one path would have taken you in a completely different direction to another. And you can sometimes say, when you look back and you go, wow, somehow all these dots align to get me to where I am now.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I'm a big believer that we all, I don't say necessarily it's absolutely cast in stone, but maybe there's a line, and then we have a wiggly line that keeps on cutting across that line, but you get to the point where you were ultimately going to end up anyway. In some way.
Agreed, yeah, very much so.
So that first project, then you were employed by a trust directly at that point?
So I'd switched. So I was in the NHS Trust, and then my then boss, she went into a consultancy, and then she took me with her. Right. So they then, where I was working in the NHS, they then employed me back to carry.
So who was that consultant?
So it was a small consultancy back then called Inventures. That was bought out by Capita. So I was with them for 8 years. I was probably with them just a year when Capita bought them out.
Right, okay. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
And that's when you and I got to know each other, when I was moving. So
yeah, and then you Gleeds after that, was it?
That's right, yeah. Okay. And then I went to Gleeds, and they had a really great healthcare portfolio and wanted me to, the appointment was go and deliver the Grange University Hospital, which was one of the only ones that's been delivered in the last 10 years. And has probably been the real moment in my career that I felt very successful and felt very proud. Yeah.
Good. And then from there to Arcus, what was the size of Arcus when you joined the business?
So there was early 60s, 60 odd people, something like that. Okay. So I'd finished the Grange, and I was on that project for 7 years. So part of writing the business case, managing the design, finding the funding, etc. It was always going to be a bit of a line drawn, like, do I stay with Gleeds? Do I go and do something else with them? Or is it a chance to, try something new? And there was an opportunity with two of the guys that I knew from Arcus that said, do you want to come and grow the programme and project management team? Yeah. Arcus had a pretty small programme and project management team at the time, and they wanted to get into more major projects, major programmes. And so I said, yeah, I am actually up for that. I'm up for, I've been in very much a delivery mode. I've loved it. I'd been quite active on social media about it, just on LinkedIn of, my role and what I'd done. And I thought, yeah, let's go for that. So I joined in January 21, COVID, a real odd experience. Yeah. And it was there was no expectations. They were great with me. Richard, the founder at the time, just said, let's give this a go. Let's see where we can go with it. So bidding some opportunities, and my God, Paul, it just kept winning, and it was amazing. It was like, a slot machine, like, wow, win, and you get the buzz from it. It was fantastic.
And what do you think made you so successful with those wins? What was the? You say, is there anything you look back and go, we nailed this for this reason. That's how we did well.
I think there was, because I'd been very conscious in that I wanted to kind of grow my brand and what I wanted to be known as. Yeah. There was a little bit of, and some of those clients that I won projects with, and now I've kind of developed that relationship over the years. Yeah. They have said since, like, they were buying the CV. There's somebody that had major programs which just rolled off of
We'll touch on your point. At the time, still not even at the time, still there's very few major projects that have been delivered in the healthcare. So you were probably a fairly rare entity. Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think I fully recognised that, but as I say, that reflection from hearing that from others. So I think it was that, and also then the Arcus bit of it came from a bit of positive disruption in the market. Right, okay. Who were Arcus? They weren't in this space previously. And there was, we were up against sometimes like big four, huge organisations, and then, up against Gleeds and the TNTs and the Maces. So there was a moment, a gear change of a person, and then the marriage with Arcus that then went, oh, okay, they're playing in this space now.
Yeah, good. And just for everybody who doesn't know, just talk us through your journey within Arcus to where you are now.
So, as I said, like the great success of growing program and project management, and it was a really fun time. It's really hard, but I was up for it, and so and there was I wanted to prove that I could do this really. And then I was part of the management board when I joined. That was part of the role, and I think they saw she can stretch a bit further than just this. If she can do it in program project management, she can do it a bit further.
Yeah.
So there was an opportunity to then go, right, okay, should we sit Victoria across the wider business in a bit of a kind of chief operating officer role? Not, I didn't want that title, but it was that looked across the whole business, all of the we call them pillars or business units. So I took on that role, and again, great success came. And then it was 2023 time. One of the founders, Richard, had got to a point of saying, I'm ready to have some life choices. He was early 60s. I don't think he'd mind me saying that. And a bit of a discussion as to who's up for this now.
Right.
One of the other directors who him and I have been friends for years, like a very strong relationship outside of work, just had a discussion as to, well, who wants to do this? And I said, well, I'm up for it. And he said, I think you'd be good at it. And what we did say is we'd never go up against each other because of the friendship. Right. And so it's really lovely to have that grown-up approach, because we didn't want it to impact the friendship. Yeah. To then go, you take on the leadership of the business. Brilliant. So that happened, and that was kind of autumn 2024, where we publicly said, and to the team internally, Richard's going to step back, I'm going to take on the leadership of the business. And I've been doing it for 18, 20 months now. So
on some levels it sounds like a bit of a natural evolution, but what have you learned? How have you, from going from very much focused on delivering programs and projects, how have you had to adjust, maybe your day to day, how you do things? What's been the I'm asking a lot of questions here. What's been the learning? How have you adjusted to that role? Because it is a different role ultimately.
Hugely, you know that, don't you? Hugely. Yeah. I'm really aware. I'm very open. I've never done this before. I don't know it all. But what I will do is I'll try my best, and I'll come at it from a very kind of honest and open position. Yeah. I also don't want to, and have not, stopped my project delivery. Good. Now, Richard said to me, he said, you're going to have to stop it. It's a big role. I was like, no, I don't want to be so divorced from reality that when I'm talking to clients, I'm still harping back to the Grange from years ago. I don't think that's relevant for our clients. I want to make sure I've always got my hand in. So I've got a couple of key clients that I work really closely with on, 2-3 days a week. Yeah. And then the rest of I manage my time on the rest of it. But in recognising that I don't know all of this, and Paul, maybe you'll recognise this, like no one teaches you this stuff. No. So I guess I sound off people and put some good people around you. But there's a gut feeling sometimes, isn't there? When maybe something hasn't gone right, and well, what would I do? What's my gut telling me? What's my heart telling me? Sort of thing. So I read some management books, I read some leadership books, but I'm not trained in that. I haven't got an MBA. But
and sometimes ignorance in some ways is bliss. Actually, it's a good thing sometimes because you can just do what you've always done, and sometimes actually. In fact, some of the most successful businesses in the world have been people who've, I'll just figure it out as I go along, and I'll learn. I'll learn as I go along, and I'll make some mistakes as I go along. But I'll learn, and I will get better and stronger. Yeah. And they often, in some cases, they completely revolutionise entire industries because they don't go with a preconceived idea about what is the way to do things.
No, I didn't have that recipe book of. This is what I must do now as the leader of this business, and this is what it will deliver. Yeah. I've got a vision for what I'd like Arcus to be. Yeah. And with the right people around us and that clarity, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get there.
Yeah. Perfect. And so So I really like what you said there about you still, trying. I guess I should say, being out of the coalface, you're still very much. And I believe definitely that within the SME world, that's becoming quite a norm now. That a lot of still, senior leadership is still very much delivering projects because they have to understand what's going on for their people, but also for their clients to understand these are if you get too far away from that. You can't possibly be a great advisor because you don't know exactly what's going on.
No, agreed. And I was really clear that, but because I love what I do, I really love what I do. I'm pretty sure I won't do this leadership for years and years. It'll be a period of time that I'm up for it. And I think maybe then there'll be a point where I'll probably go back to project delivery full time because I really like it. But if I didn't like it, then it would have been easier to detach myself. But I agree with you. I don't want to be sat client where they're kind of looking at you going, she hasn't actually, how does she know what my pressures are? How does she know what the industry? I want to be able to really bring that live kind of lived experience.
And somehow that's a case of you building a really solid leadership team around you, accepting that, my strengths are here. It might be that, I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying, it might be that finance really, really bores you. It's like, right, we'll get a really good, either one of the other senior leadership team or an FD, somebody who can look after that. And I know that's in really safe hands. I don't need to worry about that. And then replicate it for all the major functions of a business. An MD or a CEO you don't need to do all of it. And sometimes you can engineer a business so that actually it enables you, as you're doing, to still be very, very much kind of hands-on with projects, rather than just inwardly facing, looking at all the administration of the business.
Agreed. And you're right. Being honest with yourself, where's your strengths and where do you need that support? And there probably is. I'd say it's quite hard for SMEs, and having watched a few of the podcasts, I've heard some of your other guests talk about this. You do become a bit of a, you do everything at some point. You've got your HR hat on, you've got your finance hat on, you've got your project, your client hat on, etc.
And you become the bottleneck.
Yes, you absolutely do. And then it's at that point when have you created enough headroom, no doubt financially, to allow you to put some investment in, right, that now needs to be sat over here with a good tether back to the main part of the business. But it is quite a hard one to manage in that just becomes an overhead. So, and then, what does that do to our cost rate, and how do we remain competitive? And I think that's quite hard for any SME to balance. And it's a bit risky sometimes, isn't it?
It is. You could argue on the other side, it's also risky not to do as well, because you must be now the size of turnover and headcount you are. You logically have to put some. You must be at a point where you need some structure, and so you're absolutely right. Anything that's a non-fee earning role, I think adds a lot of risk, and all the other things are make sure you got the right. They understand the business, the right cultural fit, all of that kind of good stuff. But equally, it can also probably restrict growth if you don't let go of some of those reins and have some of those specialists in to look after the business at that point in certain areas.
And there's probably some really good examples of where you've seen businesses scale and grow where they haven't done that and they've held themselves back. Absolutely. And so when I stepped into this role and Richard stepped back, he'd already started to have that structure in that let's invest in that to allow us to grow into it. Because otherwise it's always hard to change the systems. And like I say, we're 9 years old now. There's been investment in people, we've got a strong structure, investment in some technology, but we need to go again now. Things are starting to creak, and also the pace of change. We need to go again. So quite a lot of work going on this year as to, where's AI enabling us? Is the finance, is the payroll system just need a good refresh? Those sorts of things as well.
Anecdotally, I always find that businesses start to, or there's a lot of businesses that can grow quite well, and it seems to be this funny thing around the 100 mark in terms of headcount that things start to stall. And it's often because the leadership do not have enough bandwidth, particularly around things like client development, business development, key account management, and they're kind of stuck doing it, but they've not got another tier below them who are supporting that in that kind of in those functions around continuing to grow the client and new clients out there. And I find often a lot of businesses stall at that level.
Yeah, agreed. It sounds also familiar. You're absolutely right. For where we are now, we're at that point and doing quite a lot around who should be the next generation that are really going to be the ones that take it on and grow the business. Yeah. And how can they influence what we now need to put into the business? As well as being open to bringing new blood in, because that's always a good refresher of keeping the feeling like the business is agile and fresh, really.
Yeah. So it's a real success story in 9 years. Is there anything that you think as a business you could have done, you could have done better, or there were lessons learned that you're now adjusting in terms of going forward?
Well, it's not our industry. Cash is king, isn't it? And working within healthcare, NHS is, they're not bad payers, they're just blooming slow payers. So there's something around probably our discipline of cash.
Right, okay.
And then when we were trying to invest, there was some, probably the scales changed.
Right, okay.
Not in a positive way.
Yeah, okay.
For a period.
Yeah.
So I'd say that was one thing that probably I think about quite a lot, and hence why we've now got a finance director, a really great guy who is has improved that. Good. But that links to what we're also saying about that structure. So we'd grown and everything was going really well, but then the systems weren't allowing us to always see the true cash availability, or what was as debtors for us. So you couldn't always get an accurate picture, and so I think that's a good learning. Just not forgetting how important cash is.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, it's the lifeline of any business.
Agreed.
Without a doubt. Just out of curiosity, is it? I imagine the NHS pay slowly. What's it like in Canada? Is that better? Same? Would you say?
Worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
They're paid when paid over there.
Right. Okay.
So we often we do quite a lot of projects on our own, but we can then often be tucked under some of the big Atkins, Arcadis, Stantec, etc.
Yeah, okay.
And so they're slow to pay the prime.
Right.
The prime are slow to pay us.
Wow, okay.
So whereas of course we can call out a bit of legislation over here, that's been a cultural difference that we've learnt.
Another learning curve.
Yeah. So when I was then looking at the performance of our Canadian business and giving our MD over there a bit of a hard time, like, how can you be carrying this much debt on this size of a business unit? And of course, then I'm learning it is a paid when paid approach.
Okay.
So, it's worse in terms of payment length.
Yes.
But it's the same. It's not bad payment. It's just the blooming time it takes.
Yeah. I imagine the benefit you've got is that you are going to get paid.
Yes.
So like you're in the private sector where a company might go bust.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get paid. It's just
takes a long
how
time.
long it takes to get paid.
So that influences, how much we keep as working capital, because we try and balance that so that we're aware of that now. But that was something we learned. Like that wasn't in our mind when we went over there. I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe somebody would have asked, what's the payment terms like? How does it work? We didn't.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure you're not the last or first or last not to ask that question, or to just assume that it works similar to how it works in the UK. I guess that's probably just a fairly common assumption.
Yes.
I wouldn't have a clue about that. We did a lot of work, and we'll probably go back into it. We did a lot of work in the US for a couple of years. And I wouldn't have had any notion to ask that in the first place. Try and set my own expectation about what I should expect to happen.
Yeah.
So obviously, it sounds like hopefully a lot of growth is going to come out of Canada. But what's the if we were sat here in 5 years' time, what's the ambitions for the business in terms of probably headcount and turnover by that point?
Yeah. So I've just written the medium to long-term strategy for the business. Healthcare absolutely at the centre of it. But one thing we've learned is that, I mentioned it earlier, it's really hard to weather any storms when you're single sector. hence why Canada was important. It was another jurisdiction that wasn't reliant on one funding source. But what we've had in the time is that the development of connections that from life sciences in higher education that still have that kind of tether back to healthcare. So healthcare will remain the anchor within Arcus, and then the way I'm describing it is this ecosystem of other sectors, because mainly we're getting approaches. Can you help us? You've done this for so many years now. It's really translatable. Can you help us? And Paul, that's probably the best way to go and try it. Somebody's knocked on your door instead of you trying to push through the door. So we've just set that out, and it's arguably not it's not revolutionary, but it will allow the business to evolve. 10 years of being the healthcare infrastructure specialist, it will then change to something else, and I'm no brand person, but it will slightly evolve so that it's more social infrastructure that allows us to have a kind of a broader reach. And then in terms of heads, I think that's a really hard one in this day and age.
It is. I think a lot of businesses are struggling with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we still do a business planning, a bottom up and a top down as to how many people do you need to deliver this much revenue, plus what would we expect in each business unit to be in-year revenue growth. I haven't got my head straight as to how much that could change in the next 3 to 5 years, but that's something that I've set for myself. I do need to get my head straight on that. And it shouldn't be a metric that I always revert to, I don't think, in the future.
I think I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were laughing how probably as long as I've been in the industry, there's always been this, and it's probably only changed, I would say, the relative last 5 years probably. There's been this notional number of it's 100k per head per fee earner. It's almost existed in the industry for a long time. And of course, the numbers you disclosed earlier and what's reflected of the wider industry, that number has moved on ultimately. The next question is probably with the use of clever tech and AI, can you enable a really good project manager to probably do even more, still to the same standard, but and hence, how does that dynamic change going forward?
Yeah, and as I say, I haven't got my head straight on it. What I would like to do, and I'm sure some of your other guests have talked about this, is just to take away some of the dross, the admin, like that's what you want to try. So the most valuable bit of any of our interactions with our clients is when you're truly human. Yeah. There's a problem, and only a human can help you through that. Yeah. And so the risk register that sits behind it, the valuation that sits behind it, that's been done. Yeah. You're now like one-on-one. Yeah. That's where you get your value. Yeah. So that's what I want to see, like that. But that helps us just be more efficient. We've productized, etc. But we're pretty early in that. But it's a key, as I say, a key objective for myself and for the business. We just need to take it on now and start implementing it.
And I would say that's reflective of, most consultancies. If I'm there's one or two that I think are really outliers in terms of how far they've gone with it. But I would say the vast majority are still playing with it. They're all saying, this Claude thing's amazing, isn't it? And it is. It's a brilliant tool. But I don't think any of or the vast majority, I don't think have kind of hard baked into, right, this is our new policy structure, how we're doing things, and dramatically changing things. No. I think everyone's realising this could stop our people doing the really dull stuff, which is also in many cases time consuming but not that effective. Yeah. And allow us, like you say, to spend more time sitting down with clients, sitting down with contractors. Because let's face it, everything can happen, but still you need to. The easiest way to fix a problem is just sit down with the other parties involved and go, right, let's fix this. Yeah. Human to human. Yeah. Let's understand it.
Whites of the eyes.
Appreciate we've got this report here, but let's just. Yeah. What does this actually mean? How do we move it on to the next stage?
Agreed. And it's good to hear that not alone in that. And the kind of senior team at the moment, we've got some great people, but probably not one of us has a particular. I haven't got somebody that really loves coding. Whereas I think maybe some of those organisations that are a bit more advanced, they've got somebody that kind of gets that. So I'm quite curious in it, but in no way do I understand it. So, maybe if I did have somebody there, we might be able to push it a little bit more.
I think we'll see that happening now. I think we'll see a lot of consultancies, your size and smaller, start to, one of the future priority hires will be somebody who can come in and start doing that and helping them stitch it all together, whatever that's a chief technical officer, whatever it may be. There'll be somebody who comes in who actually starts to get it, because I think it was something that we'd hear in big business having these types of roles, but actually I think now in the modern day consultancy it's going to become probably more imperative.
Because I'd be interested to see how that pans out in terms of return on investment. So these are no doubt very experienced and skilled people, and there's certainly a role. I agree with you. When do you start to see the returns?
I would probably hazard a guess you'll see the returns sooner than you think. Because I think, just going back to that point, it's terrible if any of your people are sat doing stuff that's just grossly inefficient and dull and frustrating. We want people to be dealing with people, as we were saying. So I suspect actually it's an investment for any business, I think. And probably it's not only that one individual, it's about the whole leadership team being behind it and being supportive of it and being invested in it. And on top of that, then you bring this individual in who is the expert or the one who's going to kind of nerd out on it all and understand everything for you, because you and your senior team haven't got time, because you are still sat delivering to clients, worrying about fees. I just suspect it's going to become a more important role in the future.
Agreed. And no doubt, in the SME space, you've got to remain agile. Like, I don't want to be left behind by being the organisation that's still doing the really boring, very analogue things. You want to be at the forefront, because that's the way you attract talent in, because they could go to very large organisations that have, huge investment profiles for their training, and but they choose us for another reason, because we are agile. We have invested in this. We're pushing to be at the front. I think that's a core reason why we need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria, it's been a lovely chat. These sessions always go a lot faster than you think they go. We've probably been going on for nearly an hour, and you think no 30 minutes, but honestly they do move along. But it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you. I always end with the last question: who has been your best boss or mentor, would you say, who's helped you, I guess, at a certain point advance your career and become the person you are today?
I thought about this quite a lot, because I knew it would be part of it. And I've been really lucky to meet such a great variety of people over my career, and I hope that continues. I don't know if I can put my finger on one person, so I'm not trying to be all like politician about this and not answer the question.
If you watch any of these podcasts, most people usually give me about 3, so don't worry about that.
I think for me, it was probably not one person. It was a team that truly got behind what we wanted to deliver, and that was at the Grange. Brilliant. So that was a contractor, a client, and a professional services, a design team that just got in the room, developed a charter, signed it, and went hell-bent for leather to go for it. And when I see all of those people that I worked with for many years, be that the client group in the NHS and or the industry, not one of them says they've worked on a better project since.
So what do you think made that, and this might not be easy to summarise, what do you think made that unique? Why is it not more common?
We had a good run into it. So we had, because it's public sector, we had all the business case process to go through. We were 4 years in pre-con. Right. So we got to know each other. Yeah. So there was not intentional, but a long forming period. Mm-hmm. And then there was something in myself and the project lead from Lang O'Rourke who said, come on then, if we're going to do it, let's be really clear. And that wasn't to say that we didn't have some tough conversations along the way. Sure, yeah. But like I said, okay, well, how do we make this real? Let's sign the charter. Let's go out for drinks every month. Let's have a meal every quarter. Nice. And then that translated into, when we were on site, let's get the whole workforce together and have a hog roast in the car park. Amazing. And so you started to see that go through. Yeah, so I was very lucky that, Lang O'Rourke could enable that, but the client would turn up. Yeah. And, it was, you got to know the trades, and they wanted to know, like, why do you do this? And, well, how did you get into it? So all of a sudden, those barriers are starting to come down from, seeing me walk around the site once a week, and then our client, who was the chief operating officer come out, and she was talking to, one of the dry liners as to what's gone on here, why are you replacing that, and genuine interest. So I think a very, very human approach.
Yeah. It's amazing how much as humans we manage to complicate life, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, because it's not rocket science, is it?
That sounds just sensible.
Yeah.
It just sounds sensible, isn't it?
Agreed. But it does get lost, doesn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Victoria, thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank
really
you for
appreciate your
having me.
time.
It's been really lovely for us to chat.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No worries.